is much more worldly. It's mostly the modern world class that you all probably took in 10th grade that suffers from that. So then we just have to be really thoughtful in when the standards say to do world stuff, we have to be really thoughtful to really do it in a deep way and not just sort of a cursory way. So we really have to go into what it means, what's happening in China, or what's happening in India, or what's happening in the Middle East. Like we have to go take an extra step and own those a little bit more because that stuff just doesn't exist in other places.
Right. So in this case, we're just following what best practices are, which not necessarily following what we're adding that piece that Desi is not adding. Is that what it comes down to?
The world history standards for that class are they're long.
Yeah.
There's a lot, and it goes from if you do it goes from early, like 800, 900, like that time period, all the way up to modern day, and it does all the things of like scientific revolution, enlightenment, Renaissance, Reformation, French Revolution, all those things, and important, yes.
Yes.
When we talk about French Revolution, though, there's a great moment then there to say, also Haitian Revolution.
Right.
Because it's same time period, same stuff, and we don't always make that choice that we have to then own a little bit more.
Yeah, okay. Just to piggyback on when you were talking about the civics, my head was going to explode when you said they wanted us to field test another MCAS. Like, okay, thank you, Jeff Riley. So I am really concerned about what that's going to do for our students and the classroom and our teachers. The bandwidth to have another layer and a test in 8th grade, it's outrageous to me.
Makes me very sad.
Honestly, it's really outrageous to me. Just what, we're checking a box, Desi, for that? Like, because, history and civics we're feeling out of the loop, like everybody else has an MCAS, so they need to have one too? Like, stop. Like, you're overloaded. I'm sorry, that's my soapbox on that.
I don't disagree at all.
I think it's ridiculous. It's just going to take away from class time as far as I'm concerned.
The good thing is that the end of course test that they do, there's a big window, so we have a lot of flexibility. They predict based on their earlier pilots that it should take most kids 50 to 60 minutes. So yes, out of class time, not too horrible in terms of how much. And then the performance test that they do as well, it can be done in about the same time frame. It's much shorter, questions are a little longer, but also about an hour. So yes, and I hope it's not as much of a burden as some of the other ones are. But it does make me sad. It's 2 more days of testing for kids, and that's a lot. Yes.
Amanda, feel free to interrupt me.
Have you talked about reducing the STAR test for 8th graders? Since you're including another 2 days of assessment, is there something else we can eliminate?
Can we consider that something?
We can definitely consider it.
We're putting lipstick on a pig here. It's ridiculous.
Too much standardized testing,
But the thing is that the STAR testing is math and ELA.
But there's already in math and ELA MCAS too, so it's too much standard. It's a lot of standardized testing.
The problem is you don't get the results back until the children have already moved to the next grade. So, I mean, we can definitely look at that.
There's pros and cons for sure, but I'm just wondering if you could weigh the cons of having an additional 2 days of standardized testing.
Yep.
I have other questions, but I should let other people ask questions too. I can't monopolize, and I can also email you more questions later. So.
And I think when James brought up at the high school level the fact that there were 52 different courses for science.
In our program of studies, we offer
just
52
science.
different options just in science, right? That's a lot of.
I guess my question is, as we go through this, are we still adding new courses? Because we've had this long history where we've allowed teachers to design and add new courses. Is that currently going on? Did it go on in the last year?
David List is definitely looking at possibly revamping all of that. So we don't know what that's going to look like yet.
So have we added any new courses in the last year?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
We have. Okay.
Yep.
Yes. Sure.
Okay. And just hearing you speak regarding world history, I know there are things like AP World History or the new AP African American History, and it doesn't have to be limited to the AP level. I would expect that we would be doing that at all levels, but are those things that, I guess just...
You mean adding classes?
Yes, trying to understand during the curriculum review, are we still open to adding things sooner rather than later, right? I mean, the AP African American History class, I think, became a class this year, right? They allow for the testing. They've had AP World History for years, and that's still not something we offer.
The classes that come up in the spring are the ones suggested by the teachers. So the ones that you're talking about would definitely be talked about within curriculum reviews themselves.
Yeah, I think the
We
biggest thing is,
discussed, like AP pre-calculus came up in our math curriculum
Okay.
review.
Thank you.
So it does get discussed.
and I think that when you're hearing how many courses there are, it's great that we have all these offerings, but are we spreading our teachers too thin and our content too thin? And we also have to look at what no longer is fitting as we add these things, you know.
Or even
some of the things we
applicable,
do.
you know, something
Yeah.
that might have been cutting edge topic if we're talking about science 5 years ago is not so much now.
Right.
So should we still be
Doing
teaching
both.
that?
Well,
Is that innovative?
Is there still interest in the courses?
Like,
There's not enough interest, so it will not run. You know, so just because it's in the program of studies does not mean it runs every year.
Right, so but if there's interest in the course, then why would we then eliminate it? I can see if no one is signing up for a course and it's been a couple of years, then sure, but if it's something that was teacher-driven, student-driven, however, and there's still interest in it, I'm not sure.
I think if it's still a good course and there's still good interest in it, yes. But I
Some
think we
courses
also
alternate. We'll offer one
Yeah.
year and then we'll offer a different.
I was going to say that in the performing arts in particular, they try and rotate because there's only 2 of them. So they try to have offer a great many things, and then every 4 years make sure it bubbles up, right? So that if you are in school, you at least have an opportunity, say, to do AP music theory, right? It may not run every year, but they're going to try and make sure that every 4 years at least it runs. Though I think actually it's run last 2, but yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback off of what you said relating to history courses. I think that's one area where there's definitely a lot of room for improvement, especially among AP offerings. Basically, the only history classes I've ever taken in high school is American history and European history. And I know that there's so much more out there, and I would love the opportunity to be able to take more history classes because there's so much more to learn. And also, I think just in general, I was wondering if there's any place for student input in the various curriculum reforms and curriculum audits that you've been talking about, because I know a lot of students do have thoughts on the various courses that we've taken.
We don't have students on the committee meets during the day. We don't have students on the committee, but we do plan to reach out to students in the survey and.
Absolutely do. So we'll be pushing it out to all of you guys to do those surveys to get your feedback.
Yeah.
I had a question, and then I just also wanted to bring something else up. But my question first is, are there any plans to introduce world language electives at the high school level? I think that's something that would have benefited my education greatly, being able to take more Spanish classes rather than just the regular semester-long.
You know, that's
course.
a great thing for this year, particularly as we look at curriculum review, building that question into the process for sure. In a lot of ways, world language, the courses are electives because you don't have to take them in order to graduate, right? And there are electives, like for example, French immersion they have electives in French immersion for sure. And you know, we do offer like a broad spectrum, but it depends on how you're defining an elective. Like conversations over coffee, kind of an elective. Whereas you know, right now we're thinking of an elective as, you know, Spanish for professionals. We have that, right?
So I'm sure French immersion offers them, but Spanish currently doesn't.
Well,
from what I've
Spanish for professionals
that
is.
hasn't ran in a few years.
I mean, they offer it if no one takes it. You know what I mean? I mean, that was really what we were talking about. Yeah.
Goes by if
No.
we don't have enough interest.
Yeah.
You can't-
Right.
But I
Yeah,
think it's
that's a good
important.
question.
We're kind of a world language system, right? School system, if it is. And I think that needs to be illustrated, you know, from the bottom to the top, right? And so offering, you know, innovative, different courses, different languages
Yeah.
really shows a continued investment in languages and throughout the system. Because again, we have a great French immersion program, but we also great other, other offerings, and we need to make sure that we're investing in those, and we're.
This is a group that is ready to tackle that. This is a great group. So, and you can see their investment from the kindergarten all the way up. So I think, yeah.
I wonder if there's room to do something that's interdisciplinary. We talked about that whole pedagogy.
Yes.
So doing a
Yes.
history class in French, for
So-
because there really isn't
Well,
other
you
latitude
know,
for
it's
French
interesting.
students, the French emerging students to do anything other than having one semester of French each year. That's pretty much
Well, it's what's fascinating, and I've learned a great deal, is ninth grade, for example, ninth grade French immersion, the entire thing is about climate change, right? So it is a very interdisciplinary
Right.
approach,
Right.
right? So, like I said, that interdisciplinary approach, yeah, it's the only one you're going to take as a French immersion, but it already is interdisciplinary in a lot of ways. But I take your meaning, absolutely. And it's a matter of also having teachers to cover all the levels, and then on top of that, the electives. But it's definitely worth a discussion,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
So I had two more things. One was about the new Teacher Institute and whether those, that you're doing that mid-year and other times during the year, because we have new teachers that have been coming in at other times, or whether those are recorded or something so we can make sure that we
They
capture
are
everybody
recorded,
that's.
and they're already
Perfect.
in a folder for all
Yay.
new teachers.
Thank
And
you.
as new teachers come on, their names are added to the folder.
Perfect, thank you. And the other was,
Sorry, Brennan.
I've had this ongoing conversation back and forth with David List about graduation requirements, and I know we're talking about all of that, and so are they. So I feel like that would be a great place to have some robust discussion about, how do we influence the policy around what is considered graduation requirements and dovetails with, vision of a graduate. So I just want to make sure that all those conversations are happening.
I look forward to that one.
So that would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Amanda?
Okay, I have two questions. Thank you for coming and waiting and doing this presentation. So first, I wonder if you have collected data, or if you have a plan to collect data to elicit information from teachers on how they are using these curriculum maps to plan how new teachers are using them. And I'm wondering if there's a connection between the availability of the curriculum maps and how useful they are to teachers. I'm a little concerned that it's not that more teacher time is going to be put into the stage 1 maps, when it looks like it's really linking the state standards by unit, right? So,
More than that, but that is part of my goal that Dr. Kuska just approved, that I will be working collaboratively with these three to develop some kind of, as they work with teachers, kind of getting feedback from the teachers, how it's working for them, what we could do differently, what supports can we give them, all that type of thing. So we're going to be getting it in real time.
that's great. Because I'm sorry to criticize the state standards, because I know they're very, very important, but when I look at the curriculum maps and I see them, and I see things like, this is, grade 1 ELA, use context to confirm or self-correct word recognition and understanding. I don't feel like a first grade teacher would be like, okay, got it, I know what I'm doing today. You know what I mean? And in math as well, something more close to me, this is conic section standards are create equations that describe numbers or relationships. Like, that's everything. So it's like, it's not super specific, and I understand that those are the standards that are in place here, but I don't see this, I guess I'm asking, do teachers use this tool? And if not, I also understand the benefit of having it on the website publicly for parents to see. I do understand that benefit, but if it's not something teachers are specifically using, can they not spend more time doing it?
So I can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
I think when we have stage 3 done, that's where the teachers are going to be actively in there with their lesson plans and daily stuff. I think that's going to be used more. In high school and math, we did use these documents. At the beginning of the year, they were given to the new teachers, and I probably should have sat down with them and had conversations what they were, because I think when you're a new teacher, you're getting all this stuff, and I think they got buried. Last month, we had some curriculum time, and we sat down, and I had the math teachers all together, and they went through each of the documents, so all the new teachers knew what was expected of them and what they were to teach. Because before that, it was kind of like they were kind of unsure of what to teach, and they were teaching what they wanted to here and there, and so I think those conversations were a huge value to those new teachers. I don't know if it's happening throughout the district, but I know in high school math that definitely happened on 2 separate days. So several hours were spent.
And a lot of teacher prep programs now have kind of changed, that the conversations are a lot more, I don't know when you went through your program.
Oh,
but
it
a
was
lot-
many years ago.
Yeah, so that's, I didn't want to offend you. But same with me, but there's a lot more concentration about how you are tying your instruction to the state standards. So it's a lot more concentration by colleges on that to prep teachers. So.
Yeah.
And it's that stage 3 that's really that's the lesson plans. That's where the actual
Well, and 2
instruction
is the
lies.
assessments. Once you create that assessment based on
Yeah.
the task in stage 1,
Sure.
it's you're working towards it, so it's very useful.
Yeah, but I would be interested to hear from teachers on how are they finding these useful? Because it does seem like it's a 3-year process, like it's a lot of time put in to developing these.
I think I just want to circle back to, we brought up Hopkinton, and I work very closely with Carol Kavanaugh, the superintendent there. She's the vice chair of the Accept Board with me. And I had a long conversation with her, we met 2 weeks ago or so, about what are you doing in Hopkinton to get the number ones, right? They are explicitly looking at the standards, mapping them, doing UBD, and they're setting specific expectations, and they analyze the data from MCAS. That's the reality. That is, if you're, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, rankings are based on data that you have. And if you look at Boston Magazine, for example, I looked at the trends there for our district. It's very clearly, so MCAS and DESE data is the driving force that gets the Boston Magazine rankings. They all have different focus areas, and we could do a whole presentation on rankings alone, but it's very closely tied to the state standards, MCAS data, other data. I mean, there's so many factors, and whether it's niche or Boston Magazine or what's the other one we look at? U.S. News and World Report.
Yeah.
They all have different foci. U.S. News and World Report focuses very heavily on AP classes and then the scores that students get and how many you take. So if students don't, some districts require students to take, if you take an AP class, you have to take the AP test. We are not required to. Therefore, we have a lower number taking it, and that all equates to those rankings. So, I mean, we'd be happy to do something more.
Well, that's something I guess we've sort of been talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's just explaining the rankings to people,
Right.
letting them know what we're doing that's sort of different and impacting our rankings in different ways. And then maybe, that can lead to community conversations about sort of, do we really?
Should we require
should we
AP tests to be taken?
Or do we, I mean, how much do we care about the rankings? Where do we
Right,
kind of
that's-
want to be? We're sort of all over the place. Hopkinson's number 1 in one ranking, but below us. And I mean, it's sort of, everything is all over the place, so you have to strike a balance because we certainly don't want to be like teaching to the test, or at least I don't want us to be teaching to the test. At the same time, we have to recognize that the test still counts for things and gets factored into different assessments that we then get sort of,
Yeah, I think
reviewed based on.
I think the community has to decide, what does the community want? If you want the high rankings, then you have to decide what's going to get you there. If you want something different, then that's really the driving force. Ultimately, our students are competing with the world when they get out of here. So you have to decide what educational value are you giving to them so that when they leave here, they have the best opportunities. And I can't tell you, I don't have that
And they're
magic,
the best humans.
all of that.
And is that a presentation you'd be ready to do in December? I know we had talked.
I hadn't started yet because I didn't know when and if. I didn't want to put tons of work into it, but I had started looking into the data, so I'm sure that you could help me with that too. We can have some conversations about it if you'd like that.
Can I ask my second
Yeah, go
question? Okay, so my second question is obviously about math, both because I am a mathematician
about
myself, I know, and but also because this is the year of the math curriculum review cycle, and I want to formally ask for you to put on your agenda an equity look at Holliston, specifically at the middle school and high school level because of the leveling, how equity looks in math, and let me be specific with some input I have from members of the community. How flexible is the tracking at the high school level? Are students able to bump up to honors easily? How can we actively recruit, train teachers to look for when they do their recommendations? More BIPOC students, free and reduced lunch folks, English language learners, and non-males into high-level math courses. And can we make sure that honors level courses are not only accessible to kids who go to Russian School of Mathematics or Kumon or pay money for an expensive, the keyword, tutor, so that all kids can access that. I would like to see some data on what percentage of kids in those classes pay for a tutor. And if it's significant, what can we do differently curricular-wise? Secondly, the scheduling system, is it true, this can't be true, maybe that you guys could tell me, that like Algebra 2 CP is a year, but Algebra 2 honors is half a year or something like that?
Geometry.
Geometry.
Okay, so geometry?
Part 1 and Part 2.
Correct.
So but are the honors classes shorter in length?
Yes.
So, is it okay if I just speak?
Yeah,
to
do
that?
you mind answering that? Okay.
So, when
I
I
figured
was
you
a
guys would
freshman,
know.
I took geometry honors, and that was a semester long. But I have friends who are in the class of 25, a year younger than me, and because they were taking Algebra 1 during the time of COVID, I believe, their geometry class got pushed to be 3 terms instead of 1. Otherwise, at the CP level or the CP2 level, I believe also they do Geometry Part 1 as 1 semester, Geometry Part 2 is a 2nd semester.
But honors geometry is condensed.
Yeah.
It has only ever been bumped up to 3 terms rather than the
Yeah,
usual 2.
so that seems like it would be near impossible for a student to switch tracks or to switch up into the honors track, and that's alarming from an equity standpoint.
Do you mean not possible during that year when they're in?
Ever. Because if a student has to take 2 semesters of geometry, whereas some students only have to take 1, then the students who only take 1 can then be a year ahead and be able to take calculus as a senior or blah, 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 or are there other solutions to that?
That's not the case.
Yeah,
I took 2 semesters of geometry. I was just in regular math, and I can still take AP Calc this year.
Okay.
It's because you only take 1 math class a year, so you would not be jumping ahead.
Oh, no, it is more common for sophomores to take Algebra 2 their first semester, pre-calc their 2nd semester, or if they have no interest in maxing out in math classes, which many people don't, they'll do the more common sequence of Algebra 2,
As a sophomore,
pre-calc junior, calc or stats as a senior. But it is very possible to max out on math classes with the 2 semesters.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I have a friend who took CP1 geometry, and then by junior year he was taking AP BC Calc, and he's now taking stats. So
Okay,
he
so
was
there
able
is
to make
more.
a leap.
Yeah.
So it sounds like in some ways there is flexibility, but you are having those conversations about equity in the,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's
Leveling in
awesome.
the middle school, yep.
and
Meeting.
can, just to go back, because Dr. Kuska mentioned the rankings, I'm sure you've also been having a discussion about how you can implement a full Algebra 1 curriculum at the middle school level.
That goes into the discussion about leveling, yes. It's part of the leveling discussion that we have.
Yeah, because in order to, we all know that we're one of the few towns around at trying to be at that competitive level that don't offer a full Algebra 1 at the middle school.
I'd have to look, I don't know off the top of my head.
Well, I do this work too, yeah,
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah, there's more than you think though still. I mean, yeah. But yes, we are looking at all of that, every single meeting, we have equity, tracking, all of that.
And that, what you just brought up about tutoring and having students that are tutored being at an advantage, that was on the agenda. We didn't get to it last
Okay,
time, but it
that's
will
awesome.
come up
That's
in
on
our
the
next meeting for
agenda.
sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
I did get your email about that.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
A couple follow-ups about it, and I know you said you were able to go from a CP math class earlier on and get to AP Calc, but what you couldn't do, I think, in that is take both AP Calc and AP Stats, right? I mean, that would be difficult to be able to do that. Is that part of?
The only thing that would sort of restrict that would be that you'd have to, I think you'd have to take 2 math classes sophomore year.
You'd have to
but-
double up at some point.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's difficult at any school, I think, because that's like a whole year ahead. That's taking Algebra 2 as a freshman.
I do want to add that in the calc class I took last year, there were many people there were at least, it was a class of I think like 17 or 18 people. There were at least 5 or 6 taking AP Stats concurrently with AP Calc. There were also people this year, people last year in my grade who took pre-calc and AP Stats. So if you wanted to max out on math classes, it is very possible. No matter what, you have to double up at some point.
You have to double up. Okay. And when we talk about the ability to, Amanda brought up an excellent point about being able to move from level to level and the inequity where many students might have math outside of school, whether it's Kumon or Russian math. And also tutors, private tutors that are expensive. I know there are other schools, middle schools and high schools like Medway, that have a 24/7 tutoring program available. So as we look at the ability to move between levels, can we also look at what some of the surrounding schools are doing, where they make tutoring accessible to everybody? I mean, would that be great to be able to, if you're struggling with your homework and your parents, haven't brushed up on pre-calc in 30 years, to be able to log on and get a tutor and have that accessible for all of our students.
The program Medway uses actually communicates with the teacher of what the student needed help with, so the teacher is informed that the student needs help with it, so it circles back with the teacher as well.
I do think that if people are interested in that, I'd really like an update on that, especially before the budget season gets underway, to understand that program better and what that could offer to our students, because we know other districts do have that. And then this is more of a follow-up, Joni, with you. I think it was about 2 months ago at one of our first meetings, and it kind of falls under math curriculum. We were talking about the math curriculum review and leveling, and there was going to be a teacher survey on it. And I applaud you for the robust group that you have working on the math curriculum. I see that you have people all the way from Placentino to the high school. David Kine is in there. You have administrators. But there was going to be a teacher survey that would be conducted, and there was also going to be a math curriculum review night. And I just need an update on when that's going to happen, because it was important. It was at the August meeting, and I just don't want to get to February because you're doing important work. But I think that the community needs to understand it, and you need to get feedback from them as well, right?
We postponed because of the equity audit. So I'm going to have to partner with Jeriel to see what we should do with that. Just because it also lends itself to a lot of things that were brought up in the equity audit. So we had a night planned. Help me out here, was October.
We had picked a date, and then we started to plan and separated who was going to kind of do what. And
correct.
Then we were told to stop. So.
Yes, because of the equity audit.
The point here is not just to talk about sort of what you're doing, but is to solicit feedback from the community about what the community is expecting. And I get that there were some recommendations in the equity audit, and we don't want to dismiss those. But at the same time, we can't stop everything else that we're doing. And I think that the community is going to drive both the equity audit and the math review and leveling. So I don't know. I mean, maybe you postpone sort of communication of what you're expecting to do, but you still continue to have some sort of review night where you invite the community in, seek feedback, put out surveys to parents, try to get information, and then what we can decide is, say the community comes back and says, we don't want de-leveling, right? Well, then we look for these other tutoring programs and ways that we can ensure that we equitize the opportunities by having the school system offer what may be making some of the inequities, real, right? So we bring people up if they want to be brought up, rather than we sort of keep everybody level but down.
Yeah, and when we do elicit feedback, like to make sure that we're actively recruiting feedback from like the voices that we don't always hear, right? Like second language learner parents, like how are their kids doing in math? Otherwise, it's just going to be a million Amanda Bigelows there, and it's always, I'm the loudest voice.
Work with Jeriel as
we want all
through the equity audit and how best to solicit this feedback from
solicit all types of feedback.
That's why we delayed, because we wanted to do that, and we wanted people to have the information from the equity audit so they could bring their views after knowing what we currently have.
So is the math curriculum review then delayed as well?
No.
We're
But so-
continuing
but if
this
you're-
part, this one.
But if we're going forward with, I don't, but that all flows together, I mean, like, I don't.
Not really, because they're also piloting different elementary math
Correct.
curricula and like different
Correct.
things, so it's like sort of one bullet.
They
of-
could still pilot the materials and then decide later in the year if they're going to have 3 levels in one grade or 2 levels in another. I mean, that's.
So this conversation has come up at the actual review in our meetings. This exact conversation has come up. Like, what do we do? What comes first? There's the equity audit. There's what school committee's going to want to do. What the community wants to do. And how do we make any sort of recommendation if we have all these things we don't know about? And so it has come up.
But if we're looking through all the different pieces, K through 12 or pre-K through 12 for the math review, right? And we're saying, okay, but we're going to put this piece aside because this piece is like, what I don't want is to get to the end of the year and say, well, we need to conclude the entire review, so let's just, jam through some decision that then is going to come to us, and we're going to, either have to like do line item vetoes or carve things up. I mean, which by the way should not really be part of our job, is to,
We want the feedback early.
Yeah.
Sure, but the purchase is going to happen either way. I'm like, even if they don't know right now exactly what levels are being offered, we know we're going to be purchasing new materials for all those levels.
Correct.
But you won't know
as
how
I
much.
think I
Well, it
said-
costs by class number, so that's how they would.
Right, and I either said at the last school committee meeting or a separate meeting I had with some of you that we are not going to delay certain groups. So if elementary, I'm just making this up, if they are able to use the rubrics and figure out where they're at and what they're happy with, we would present that to you guys and you could,
Right, when they're ready.
right, you could okay that part of it, and we still continue on. Because then they can move forward, and Ashley and James could work with those people. But no, we're not delaying anything.
One of the things on our agenda next time we meet is to create a baseline survey that we can use for all curriculum reviews, and then each group, like the math, will personalize it for math and ELA for ELA. So getting similar type questions, and it's going out to everyone to collect that data.
So when would you anticipate this information night / feedback solicitation from the community to happen? I mean,
When is our next curriculum review meeting? Do we have one scheduled?
It's the end of each month, the end of November, 3 weeks.
The end of November?
3 weeks from today, I believe.
So we could definitely, I don't know, we're going to talk about like holidays right in there, but we definitely have a survey out before the holidays and all of that.
what will have changed since I don't like the delay. If you're talking then doing it in December, what really changed since October? Because obviously we had a great presentation from Jerry L about sort of his timeline, right, and the fact that it's a little bit rightfully sort of not sort of set in stone. It says that work is going to kind of be a living document. So we're not going to have any answers from the steering group by December.
Because the public did not have the information from the equity audit, which is going to make a difference on their opinions about how they feel about each subject.
I think and I had this conversation at your meeting last week or so. The question is, so what if the curriculum team recommends one thing, and then the equity steering committee recommends another? Then the community, the school committee, is going to have to wrestle with that. So the timing is, I don't know what the ideal timing is. I've never actually been part of an equity audit, so it's a unique experience.
There were some people on the team that felt uncomfortable making a recommendation if the equity audit or the committee was going to say leveling is do not level, and then we as a committee said we should be leveling. I think there were a couple people, and I'm not speaking for everyone, but there's definitely one or two that spoke up and said they didn't feel comfortable making a recommendation if it was going to be not in right, exactly.
But see, isn't the point to get your sort of, your expert opinion on sort of what that your committee thinks we should do, and the reason we get paid the big bucks, right? All those, is at the end of the day to wrestle with those final decisions.
Right, and that's what we talked about. That's how I interpret it as well. At some point, they will have to make a decision and feel good about their decision using data and analyze what the right decision for that committee is. And then if it conflicts with another decision, then yes, then we have to figure out as a community what we want to do with that information.
So a little context as well. This was the day after the equity audit was presented to the school committee. The next day we had, or 2 days later, we had our curriculum review meeting. So I think people were like, what do we do? And there was a lot of questions in the air, and we have another meeting in a couple of weeks. And if that's something you really want as a community, I think we can probably arrange that and not focus on leveling or whatever and just get the community's view and even get their view on leveling. And we're not saying level, don't level. We're just saying, what do you want to do? What do you think we should be doing at the middle school?
And just to work with Jerry to make sure that we're reaching all the groups that may be difficult to reach or maybe feel less comfortable showing up at a curriculum night and voicing their concerns publicly.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, changing the subject a little bit. I have a couple questions. Looking through the maps online, one thing that struck me, and I realize that a lot of this is the state, but are there things that you guys are doing to try to make sure that where the standards, I read some of the standards, and to me some of them strike me as really overly prescriptive. I'm not a teacher, but I look at them and it's kind of daunting. And I'm wondering how you guys do this work, but still empower teachers to feel like they have a sense of creativity and ownership, and they can still be teachers.
So the activities they do and the transfer and all that is what you taking the standard. This is what the state's requiring them to teach, and they can then be as creative as they want with it. They can do project-based learning. They can do tons of different things with these standards, but the standards are the core of what they're teaching.
Yeah, and I actually loved your question because it's precisely why the three of us writing the curriculum for K through 12 without their input wouldn't work. They need to be able to be creative. They need to understand them, and we can pick them apart. I teach in a teacher education program, and that's one of the things I teach curriculum design is how to look at standards, how to dissect them, how to understand them, and then how to be creative within them. So that's really the curriculum instruction course that I teach actually does that. And it does have to have buy-in by the teacher because you want them to be creative within it.
So maybe that's my question. Are we doing that through professional development? Are we doing that through you all? Like, how are we empowering teachers to not feel like all of this is an exercise in sort of making them feel more restricted?
I think Ida did a really great job last year with the art teachers and the Spanish teachers. It's that when we have the opportunity to sit and have the conversations to create something new, or to make the decision that, like I did with the 8th grade team with their unit on the house on Mango Street, to say, we don't quite like what this is doing anymore. So when we sit down and say, this isn't quite working anymore, we still need to do these standards, because those aren't going away, but what are the changes we want to make and why, and how does it still teach the standards and yet be better for students? When we have that time to collaborate, we then do get to have teachers be very creative and make sure that the stuff that they're doing is still aligned. Sometimes the standards are very prescriptive in terms of the thing that has to happen, like you have to teach certain stuff, right? But how you teach that is wide open, and that's where teacher expertise and professionalism and our craft then really matters. And knowing who my students are, what the content is I need to teach, and what's going to work best for them, those things that come together, that pedagogical content knowledge, is where we see the best teacher creativity. And we're there in some places, but that's ultimately where we want to get to, right? So that we teach the things that need to be taught in a way that works for kids and allows teachers to be creative and have the passion and do the things that are so wonderful with kids and enjoyable.
I find it, honestly, just from the director of curriculum lens that I had and the teacher lens, when I didn't have those tools, it was a lot more work to do my job because I had to, all year long when I was writing my lesson plans, had to ensure that was I covering everything, and I'm confident that I probably wasn't. If I had had that roadmap laid out for me, and then I decide how to apply it, ultimately it's less work for the teacher to try to keep track of, did I cover all of these things? It's a lot of work to even keep that all in mind. So to have that roadmap and then decide how I want to interpret it and transmit it to students I found more empowering.
Okay, and then my other question, looking through the standards, I didn't see, first of all, I came to the conclusion that there's no way I could pass a middle school science test, so thank you for that. But I also noticed that in high school, I don't see any computer science on here at all.
So we were doing the required courses, the
Correct.
core courses first, right? So the computer science is not required at the high school level. In the middle school, everyone takes computer science. In the elementary school, they all have computer science. Then they get to the high school, and it's bio, physics, chemistry in science at the high
I
school.
can't believe that hasn't changed. How do
It
we
has not
not
changed.
require computer science, basic computer science?
They learn it very early. Like the elementary and middle school digital literacy and computer science teachers are very good, and they know a whole lot of stuff when they get to high school.
How does our computer science program and offering and classes differ from what Keefe Tech offers?
I can tell you all about ours, but I don't know very little, if anything, about Keefe Tech. Keefe Tech's, I know a lot about ours. I can tell you how ours runs. It's considered unified arts all the way up through 8th grade, and so they get approximately an hour a week. In 3, 4, 5, they split it with STEM, which Michelle Hastings teaches that STEM course. Allie Curley teaches like the digital learning part. So they split it, and they actually collaborate in 5th grade and do a Miller Innovates project, which is pretty awesome.
So good.
That's how it is in our schools.
Something I think we should look at it. Just anecdotally, I've heard of students going to Keefe for computer science, and I think that
But don't we offer the computer science endorsement?
we have an endorsement. But that's what I'm trying to understand. What sort of the differences are, because Keefe is a wonderful school for many programs. But I think computer science is something that we should have at least a competitive offering, that people are not like going to Keefe Tech for computer science and leaving Holliston. Just in this day and age, I think that there are many reasons why you choose Keefe over Holliston. I personally would think that computer science isn't one of them, but maybe I'm alone in that.
Yeah, one of the reasons I picked that out is because I've heard the criticism that we're still using Scratch, for example, to teach coding to 7th or 8th graders, which seems like not necessarily at their level anymore. Scratch is really meant for younger kids, from what I understand.
So the technology teacher currently at the high school, Cole Perkins, he's awesome. It's only his second year.
Middle school.
Middle school is what I meant to say. I'm sorry. The middle school, he's awesome. It's only his second year. He's really innovative. He's got some great stuff going on in there. So they do use code.org quite a bit. I'm not sure about Scratch. I'm not
He
sure.
has tons of really innovative things. He uses, MIT has some
He does,
apps
yes.
that you can create different music on your own. They actually program it. I've been in his class when he's done that. It's like incredible things. He's doing.
How do you involve the tech integration specialists at each building in all of this work? Because I would assume they would begin a lot, especially on the math and science side, but also I would think just in the tools that they're using and that are being selected and stuff.
So I'm currently working on 3rd and 4th grade science and bringing that curriculum into 3rd and 4th grade classroom. And I'm working directly with Allie Curley to get technology integrated from the ground up. So we're creating this curriculum basically from the ground up, and we're incorporating technology from the beginning. All resources that teachers want, we have conversations with them to see if it's something that's appropriate technology-wise, and if it's curriculum appropriate.
Yeah.
So we have meetings with them, and we're constantly talking with them.
And also, I'm sorry, but also that Dan McLeod's involved, because we want to make sure that we're not breaking any data privacy agreements, so we're not sharing any student information or data. So.
And we work with Winnie and with Tina and with Sarah.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun last year working with Ms. Duchesne, one of the fourth grade teachers. We planned out a unit together that was aligned to standards for the geography standards about cities in the Northeast, and we also worked with Ms. Curley to have the kids create a podcast and script that out and produce it. So it was really fun to be able to do that, and the kids had a blast, and I got to be in the classroom teaching with them, and it was really empowering, I think, for the kiddos to hear their voices. So like that, there are those great opportunities when we get to collaborate with them.
Right.
And that was like so fun and creative and impactful for everybody.
I think the same thing, especially in world language, to be able to record your proficiency and record conversations. I know even in the elementary school they do a great deal of that, but as they get into the middle school, they have a lot of textbook exemplars online, so they can hear different accents from all over the world. Obviously, to have examples of culture in video form in its place and time, right? So there's a lot of of things technology-wise that actually makes their curriculum come alive. I know in the elementary school, there's a lot of digital tools as far as composition and music making, recording there even. And I know even in the art program, they're able to do like virtual museum tours, et cetera. So technology is embedded in all the curriculum, all the way up.
So I just want to kind of clarify. I'm not worried that kids don't know how to use digital tools. I know that kids are playing with iPads when they're 2. What I'm concerned about is that they don't have a good foundation in computer science so that they understand, the difference between a platform and an API. I mean, I'm not particularly technically illiterate, but
Is there a difference?
but I want to have some. I'm concerned that we're not giving them enough of a computer science foundation to understand how things work, not just how to use them, but how they actually work and what some of the career opportunities are, and just kind of the stuff that I don't know, honestly. I feel like we need to arm them with that, and I'm worried that we're not doing that well.
I think the middle school, and the younger grades, yes, but maybe the high school, because it's not a required course, that's something that could come up for discussion, I guess. It's not a required course, so a student could go through high school without taking a specific computer science course.
That might not be theirs back to graduation.
What was it called at the middle school where they've got the kids can help the tech specialist fix the Chromebooks? The
They work with
Sorry.
And they have it at the high school as well.
They restarted. I know that kind of was quiet during COVID, but I think that group is getting back together.
Yep.
Which that was
Dan
actually
has a
pretty
security
cool.
one that works on digital security too, I think.
Yes, the high school student.
Yeah.
If you could just quickly bring back up the presentation and go to the sort of the timeline for a second. I have a question on that, but before I do, I just want to sort of make a statement because I've heard from a couple of teachers that at least the rumors are out there that the school committee needs to vote on approving individual texts, literature, books like that. And no clue, obviously, where it's coming from or anything, but I just want to make it very clear that I have no intention on voting on individual textbooks or anything like that. This isn't Florida. These are not decisions.
Pre and reform. That's pre-1990.
These are not decisions that we're here to make big sort of policy, sort of overall, directional, district level things. But I just want to be very clear that we, as far as I'm concerned, I will never vote on a textbook.
My understanding that we would produce a final report, give it to Dr. Kutzka, who would approve it and pass it on to you for approval. But
that would be a larger,
Right, that's big C curriculum versus small C curriculum.
Right.
Individual classrooms, I have no interest in being in some middle school classroom. Teachers.
Right. I'm just saying, I'm just
book lists. No, thank you.
We're also not interested in creating more levels of red tape
Correct. No,
for these things.
Right.
When I hear these wonderful compliments to you guys about so-and-so came into my classroom to help me with this lesson, so-and-so worked with me on developing that unit, that's what we are especially thankful that the three of you do. And just speaking for myself, I hope that you can move towards focusing more on individually supporting teachers and seeing what their needs are. I think the three of you do too. I think that's where your interests really lie. As we finish this website piece, that you can really get it there.
And that sort of is a great segue into sort of my point here.
Okay, being done.
I want to make a statement first. I fully support the work of aligning our curriculum K through 12, getting that, helping new teachers come in, having that work done. But I have to tell you, when this was put up, it was quite frankly fairly alarming to me that to get through stage 2 is going to take 4 more years, or 3.5 more years, and then are we still planning stage 3 after that? And then what is the timeline for stage 3? Because I think forgive me, I wasn't on the committee at the time, but I think the initial idea was that this was a 3-year project, and while I understand the work and 52 classes in math and science is a phenomenal amount of classes. it's just, I don't know, at what point do we sort of have enough of that work so that you guys can then get into the work that actually is really impactful to the students and to the teachers of like helping like make sure that our curriculum is really up, not just saying what our curriculum is, but like making sure that we're doing all these reviews and you have all that time to do that work that really ends up boosting Holliston and the educational offering and then our student achievement and, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, and that's more a question for Joni. That's really more a question for Joni. But
if we just focused on core courses, we could move on to stage 2 and then stage 3 of those core courses. But once we add on those electives, it gets, for the high school anyway, it gets overwhelming when you add on in science 50-something courses.
Could you do something like, so in Framingham, we had a PD and there's like 22 math teachers. We did all the math ones in a day.
Just to piggyback from that, my reality is I have like 2 people doing 6-year, full-year courses, and they're just like completely like overwhelmed.
Yeah, so could you do something like you get those 2 teachers a sub, and they bang it out?
Yeah, we like for the health curriculum, we definitely are doing that. It's we have thousands of different bits of information.
The new curriculum's not out yet, though, right?
No, we're still writing it, so we have
pulled them. From the state, though, isn't there like a?
It got approved.
Yeah,
last month.
Oh, so it's out
August,
now. It is out now.
Yeah.
The thing is, you're not usually doing all these at the same time.
But like the math teachers do the math ones and the science teachers.
No, but I'm just saying the fact that they have all these things going on. We are playing a lot. You heard 2011 was the World Languages, the last curriculum review. There hasn't been mapping done in, I think, 2015, I was told, and then there wasn't a practical application of it. So I mean, yes, but I think if we had kept up on the trajectory that we could have been in, or a lot of districts, we wouldn't be so far behind trying to get them all done now, and it wouldn't be so overwhelming.
So I guess my question, though, is what changed from last year or 2 years ago, whenever, when the sort of the 3-year process was sort of explained, and that was what was described to the committee, to now when it is I don't even know, because we don't have stage 3 up there, a 7, 8, 9-year process?
It's taking longer than we originally thought for teachers to do it. That's why we're trying to find more PD time. We will need principals to support it in curriculum time after school. That was not happening before. So it's going to take a combination of things. Them working with people during the day, them working with people during curriculum review times, us adding PD time. For instance, in the November meeting, there's November PD Day. There's 1.5 hours of curriculum time, which isn't a lot, but we're advancing it. They are trying to get teachers pulled out. The problem is that we're also doing curriculum reviews at the same time, and the principals are like, we can't keep pulling people out for these meetings all the time. So we have a lot of balls up in the air at the same time.
And I'll be quite honest, there's been some resistance. I mean, we know this, so that slowed the process down.
It's also double-edged sword, because do we want teachers taken out of their classes with students to be on the standards website matching and clicking? No, we don't. Like, can you guys just do it?
There's no buy-in if you do that.
Is there buy-in now?
Yes, when they would sit down and work with them, absolutely.
The people who I've sat down next to me working, they're
excited.
They're totally psyched to be here. They give each other high fives. They're literally really excited because it's their curriculum. They understand it intimately. They know what they're doing when they walk in the door because they made it.
The list of state standards?
No, I'm talking Spanish. I mean, they don't have a textbook. They just buy and go through. They grow it from the ground. So it's a little different.
As a teacher, you just gave us an example. Teachers being creative. Teachers don't want them telling the teacher what the transfer tasks could be. Right. I mean, that's taking away the creativity. If you're telling them to do it, that's squashing teachers' creativity.
No, I don't mean designing lesson plans. I mean writing which state standards are taught during which month.
And honestly, it should have been done a lot quicker. I'll be honest, when I mapped out stage 1 in previous roles, I was able to get it all done in 1 year. but I did sub out teachers, and I took one, and I was doing K-8. There's a lot, we're playing a lot of catch-up, so it's, I mean, they've done an amazing amount of work, and the progress is slower than they would have hoped, but it's also going very well in some areas. That's, you see these lengthy numbers is because some of it will be done a lot sooner, and I think they said that a couple of times, but not all of it will be done. Those are sort of the worst case scenarios. What there's.
We went through and figured out what percentage. I don't know if you shared that. What percentage?
Yeah, I did share with them separately. Yes.
Would there be a recommendation to add additional like summer work for teachers to maybe help to move that along?
And they did that last summer. They
Yeah.
started that work last summer. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I would love it if we could get people after school, but I don't think that's a reality. Trying to get, even if we paid them, just people have a lot to after school.
But at this point, I mean, is it even sort of worth having a timeline, I guess, or just sort of doing the work as you kind of work for it, and the end up goal is to get, I mean, it's just, it seems like, we're putting all this pressure on this when we're not doing that, and I don't know. I mean, I think that the end goal is right, and I think you guys are doing a great job. Helping implement all the different curriculum reviews, and so that's not my issue. It's just
Would it be helpful to have more PD time to work with teachers on this? And there's two parts to that. And I feel like you can move between buildings, but I think that's so important too. And I see this in, say, the math curriculum review and the people that you had listed between the different buildings. But I think that an important piece is also in identifying the gaps and redundancies, not just your work, but the collaboration between teachers, between buildings. So is that type of meeting during PD days important or scheduled?
I would, of course, I think we all would love more time to do all the things. I think our struggle is the dedicated PT time that we have has a lot of different things. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen in that time, and it gets carved up, and it's just never enough for all the beyond the curriculum mapping and work that we do. There's all the other stuff that has to happen too during PD time, and that's and I think everyone wants to make sure the teachers are getting all that support too. So like, in a world, like, there could be, like, yes, we spend all the time doing this thing, but then they would not get those other things, and that would not be good, right? But we also can't only do the other things and not this thing, because that would not be good.
Well, and one of the other challenges, at least that I find, is that I have 5 different areas, and their times are all at the same moment. And so I feel like I struggle to, like, make sure I'm giving, I'm trying to move forward 4 different buildings and 5 different disciplines. And then on top of that, the schools get out at different times. So I can never even get all the people that need to be in one room together to actually move things forward, because their school's release for that PD is all over the map. So, I mean, it's a logistical kind of conundrum that we're in, one that we have been really, I feel like we've made it work, but it again, it's like catch as catch can. It's not quite as orchestrated as maybe we would all like it.
I don't want to minimize the work of George James, but your work seems the most challenging and complicated with the breadth and
I acknowledge that.
But I also want to say, James, we heard from a teacher who you worked with very closely, who came in very skeptical and came out of it, really appreciative of the work that you did. So
thank you for sharing.
I think that one-on-one stuff and really, sitting down with people, it's helpful. Obviously, that it's the most time-consuming, so it's the hardest to do. But I think that's where some of the most impactful work can be done. But anyway, I think that I don't know how you're doing it, but.
Thank you.
Okay, it's 10. We're good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, individual comment.
Thank you for being.
Nothing from me.
Minnie, anything?
Minnie went to bed.
Hopefully she.
I think she fell asleep. Wait, no, Minnie, you got something?
It's good to know you're still there. Good, no, I knew you were. All right. What's that?
I said it's hard to hear.
No,
Too. I could hear this side and this side not as well.
We'll have to figure that out because I moved it. Anyway, okay, so moving on to Central Office Administrator's updates. And Dr. Kuska.
I'll just do my 2 quick ones that I already shared out with you. I think that the playbook, I forwarded that, right? Yes. So the Celtics playbook initiative has been approved for us again. We've been fortunate to be able to do that for a second year. We have 2 students, Kala and I'm blanking. Oh, I think it might be Aditya, might be the same student, but I double check on that. Are doing the work. No, I'm sorry, it isn't. I'll get the name in a minute. The 2 high school students going to be working with Sarah Kuhn and replicating a lot of the work that we did last year with the middle school students. So that's very exciting around that equity work that we're continuing. And then the other one, Jeriel already mentioned it, but he and I signed up for the Mass Foundation's Superintendent DEI Director Partnership Network. And with that, we have opportunities to engage with Darnisa Armanti Jackson. She'll be coming into our district and give us some one-on-one time and small group time and working with us throughout the year. Again, just really trying to cement that partnership so it doesn't feel like the DEI directors are in this work alone. So I'm excited about that. We had our first full day on the 20th, I believe it was. So that was fun. I'm sorry, the 26th. So that was a great day, and we met a lot of great people. And I wanted to mention to Ida that we talked to, I think her name is Zakia, who's the DEI director in Milton, and she wants to reach out because she is also looking at the equity within French immersion and how to make that even more equitable. So I want them to partner up along with Jeriel as well. So it's great.
Did you say that somebody from, I forgot what the name of Denisa?
Can I quickly say something? I cannot hear Susan or Dan almost right.
Okay.
So it's something to do with the
No one has ever said that about me, so I don't know.
Okay.
The mic doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Okay.
Sorry about that, Minnie. Yes, Darnisa Armanti
I
Jackson
speak really clearly.
will be coming to do some work with us. So I'll give you an update once I know.
Okay. I was just going to ask whether she was coming here, did you say?
She'll be coming to work with Jeriel and I. And,
I was just,
and I'm not
I didn't know if they were
sure.
presenting something that we could come and see.
I don't have all the details yet. Most of it's virtual that she'll be
Gotcha.
working with
Okay.
us.
Okay.
But she did tell me to let you know that she'll be at MASC next on the, I think it was the 9th. She's going to be the keynote, I believe, and so doing some sessions. I forget which day it was, but she told me to leave.
I don't know if I'll be able to go, but
She's incredible. We had the opportunity
great.
to see her at different conference.
thanks.
Dr. Bernard?
Yes, Jeriel also mentioned this, but I'm also a member of Influence 100 with Jeriel, which is really important to not only his role, but my role in teaching and learning, to also embed equity and diversity, and really think that keep that in the forefront of both of our minds. And we're part of Cohort 4, and part of our responsibility to be part of that cohort is each of us to do a separate action research project in our areas. So directly positively impacts Holliston, which is nice. Just wanted to remind everyone that screening results were sent home to all families for Star, iReady, and Dibbles. If you did not receive it, please reach out to your appropriate schools. And then our last PD day on the 25th, really quick to tell you some of the topics that were covered, to speak to Joe's response that there's a lot of competing needs. Placentino did a lot of work around dyslexia. A lot of different people did. They also did some work on one of the math pilots, Eureka Math Squared. They worked on developing tiered classroom materials, instructions, sheltered English immersion strategies for within the classroom. Miller looked at student work in writing, also at sheltered English immersion strategies in the classroom, how to incorporate AI within the classroom, and also dyslexia work. Rams really centered themselves around safe and supportive schools, talking about PBIS, ruler, and behavioral support. And high school did an hour and a half of curriculum mapping, science of stress, and staff wellness opportunities. That's all I have.
Mr. Boudet.
Just a quick update on on buses and roads.
What now?
Is there road work going on in Holliston?
Just a little. The Winter Street may be open or may not. I had a parent email me today, asked me that question. I haven't been able to get a response yet. I'm reaching out to hundreds of people. I can't get an answer right now, so. But,
It isn't, as far as I can tell.
Big sign thing.
I mean, it
well, was
still
the
has
sign still up there?
detours. Yeah, the
Okay,
detours
because the
still there.
parents said the bus was able to get up to their house today,
Okay,
so.
well, I don't know how far they can go.
So maybe it's not, maybe it's what people aren't responding. But yeah, we're working around everything still. The Oak Street one, the Eversource contacted me directly, and we worked around the hours, even though I think one day they cheated my hours a little bit. It looks like Rockland Street seems to be moving along, so we may not have to keep turning around in Balancing Rock, because they're not very happy with us either right now, so.
I've been told Winter Street is open by a Winter Street resident, so she's not always trustworthy. But
That would be for public consumption, by the way. That's Dan Alfred. Alfred D. At holliston.k12.ma.us.
It's also on the website.
Oh, .hsc, sorry, yes. So again, we're working through it best we can. You know, some days are better than others. So eventually, we'll have pristine roads. Quick update on Capitol. We're estimating that the Plastino Miller roof's about 90% in. All the skylights have been ordered. Now we're just waiting for them to arrive. The ones that are having challenges, we've actually talked off. So again, we're working through that, starting to figure out what to do about interior work and how that's going to relate to the exterior work on that. The drip edge still needs to be done, and a couple other areas on shingles need to be picked up. And again, it's rain on weekends that's holding us up. Because we don't have a good mechanism to do it during the school day is the
I
problem.
saw them out there Saturday. It was great.
You know, we're getting there. We're getting there. So the high school auditorium wall project, we had an engineer in to examine the wall and draw plans. He's not happy with the solution that the most recent person came up with and believes that we need to basically lag the brick fascia to the block wall behind it. So there's a different solution now. Once we get the formal report, we'll be embedding that report into the bid and go out with that. But basically, it's going to no longer be managing the water with flashing. It's going to be blocking it off with basically steel panels around the space.
And any clue when we're going to go out to bid?
As soon as we get the engineering report, we need to be able to include that in there, so.
Do we know when?
Yeah, the engineer was here last Friday, so we were up on the roof last Friday,
Okay.
so. It should be soon. I mean, it can't take much more than a week to put it together, I would assume. But he has to do architectural drawings and things like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, because he's going to say, put one of these lags what he said was something along the lines of, in a 2x2 square, so 2 feet
Can we
one
get a
way, 2
second
feet up.
opinion?
So, but yes,
So then without flashing, where's the water being routed to?
Right.
it's not going to get in. What we're doing is sealing in the brick. So the brick, water won't get to the brick any longer. So we're covering up the problem, basically. So.
And we'll just tear it
I'll believe
down.
when I see it. Is there a cost difference, do we think, or we don't know that yet?
Based on the condition of the brick, the belief is that we would also have to repoint the brick. And if you look outside and look at the height and width and stuff, that could be a little bit of a project in and of itself and actually slow things down tremendously. So, okay, well, you look like you're going to talk, Dawn, sorry.
No. I this is new, so I'm just processing.
It was new on Friday as well, unfortunately. Made me wish for some more COVID. And then trying to keep things moving along. In your packets is the November financial report, the highest level at 10, whatever night it is, about $30,000 of favorable position right now. Big items are teacher payroll, a little bit favorable on. Special ed out of districts were a lot, and well, not a lot, we're unfavorable on. Maintenance things we're unfavorable on as well for some of the projects we've done, like the rug you're sitting on right now. So overall, though, 30 grand to the good. We're usually much better at this time, but so be it.
So just a question on that. So it's showing sort of favorability under the paraprofessional line item of $12,000. Yeah, we've had a ton of paraprofessional openings so far yet. So one question is, what is the FTE count increase for paraprofessionals due to IEP needs? Is it, or is that what's driving that? Is that part of it?
That's part of it. If you look down at the next line as well, there is no paraprofessionals in the libraries, even though there are. They got miscoded. So we've got to double back on that to get them in the right place.
But can you recast it so that we were looking at apples to apples?
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
Well, just so that we're...
I've got to move stuff.
Okay.
So I've got to move stuff. So that's what I'm saying. I identified that in there. Where if you look at the underneath librarians, we're missing $45,000. We have a $45,000 favorability in paraprofessionals in the library.
I think we had added 3 paraprofessional roles this year initially, but it may be up.
It's up some. Yeah. I don't know the number off the top of my head. But again, so into the 12, add the 45, so it's 57 in Paris now.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
See what I'm saying? Because the library paraprofessionals are put into the general paraprofessional line as opposed to the library paraprofessional line. I have to have that moved.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
So if you combine those two, we're
okay. And then
nearly 60.
Quick question on you. What question for you? We have a contract with the state, I guess, or someone for copier repairs.
It's a state bid.
It's a state bid, so we have a
Yes.
contract, right?
Yes.
What is the SLA on that for if we call up, we've got a printer that needs maintenance?
Usually within a day.
Within a day.
Usually within a day, yes. Obviously, parts are an issue sometimes.
Right. But if it's just a routine thing, which...
It's usually turned around in a day.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Let's see. Updates from budget subcommittees, communications.
We did a newsletter and it was great, and in the newsletter it said that it was great.
It was awesome. This is the best ever.
And it said that we're having office hours on the 16th of November.
I will just tell you that I have not gotten a compliment from Travis all year for anything that I've done on the school committee. I got a text from him saying that the newsletter was great.
That's not true.
And then I turned around and told him, well, thank you, I had nothing to do with that. So that was all.
The newsletter was bomb. Thanks,
I thought it was great, actually.
What do we have time? What are our hours for office hours on the
7
16th?
p.m. Zoom, link included in newsletter to be posted in many other places as well.
We'll send an email out to
Who's
a
doing
week
that?
before.
Did we decide who's doing that?
We did.
The office hours?
Yeah.
One of them's me.
There's only one.
No, one of the
person.
people is me.
Yeah.
I'm
Who's
hoping
the
it's
other
not
person?
just me. Was it Minnie? It might be Minnie.
It might be me.
And then one more person, if
I
they're
have another
available,
meeting, so yeah.
can do it. So we'll figure that out.
Okay. I'm just wondering if I volunteered. That's all. I don't remember.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, it was you, Lisa.
No, not it.
It was like 10:30 at night or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Sarah.
Policy.
I don't have another meeting scheduled, but I'm going to have one by the end of the month.
Okay. Budget.
We will schedule a meeting.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
So excited. And Superintendent Eval, Minnie, do you want to give the update, or would you?
Yeah. So, okay, so we had the meeting today actually early, right before the school committee meeting, and we basically discussed about
the goals that Susan has presented, and we are in the process of setting up another meeting. I'll be throwing out some dates and see if they work with Susan, and then hopefully come back with an update again in December.
So you're going to send Dr. Koska an email with some suggested dates and some of the feedback? Okay.
Say it louder, Megan.
Okay. So you're going to send Dr. Kuska an email with the which was some optional dates, and then with the feedback, right?
With the dates, possible dates, and hopefully have another meeting before the December school committee meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Moving on, old business. We went through actually everything other than the update on discussion of facilities rentals, but I think unless Keith has anything new.
There's something in your packet. I just gathered some quick data from a number of districts.
Thank you, Pete.
And
didn't see
I've
that.
got what I would propose at the end of it. It's basically a three-component proposal, which is an hourly rate for the space, assuming, again, if they're going to the high school auditorium, I'm going to need 2 cleaners just to keep up with the amount of people who will be coming in, and then an hourly rate estimate for bringing in tech staff to do that, because, again, to give up that type of time. So it's a big number, but, again, we don't have to talk about it tonight or discuss it because it's getting late.
Okay.
Or it is late.
Yeah, we
Move that to another.
Need a little more work, but a little more review.
Yeah, it's just information and just discussion.
Appreciate you putting that together. So, new business newsletter, obviously, we
We're ahead on
we were
that.
just told we were going to keep that on there so that we never had another one.
Correct.
So the only other thing, right now we have next meeting date of December 7th. I would like to request that we move that.
Infamy.
What?
Day in infamy. December 7th.
Yeah.
A day that will live in infamy.
Oh, yes. But I would like to request that we move that forward a week to November 30th because December 7th is actually the first night of Hanukkah.
I think when we looked at this schedule, I thought that was something we talked about at one point too. And it might be that we talked about it the previous year, but I think it's something we need to think about because at this point, what is that, 5 weeks? December 7th is 5 weeks from now. At least November 30th would have us 4 weeks, and I think it would be.
Yeah, I was perplexed why it wasn't November 16th, but then I remember we had some criticism of us having it when the weekend of the musical. I think that's why we didn't put the 16th in
We
our
used to only do
schedule.
1 meeting a month.
No.
Fall.
Yeah, one.
Yeah, that's true, but then there's some that we've done.
No, we used to.
We used to only do
1 meeting a month.
Yeah, we did.
And,
I
yep.
move that we move our December 7th meeting to November 30th because of Hanukkah.
Seconded by Lisa.
Okay, before we do that, I just want to, are there any,
I'm not available that night.
we'll miss you.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I won't miss
Are
you.
you,
I offered that date, but I will tell them I'm not if I.
okay, you're good? Okay. So then there'll be a roll call.
Hold on, can I just ask my question? Then are we moving our December?
Can I quickly say something? I forgot to add something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Superintendent's evaluation update. Can I quickly say it, Stan?
Yes, please.
So we also have elected a vice chair for the superintendent's evaluation subcommittee. So Dan also will serve as a vice chair to the evaluation subcommittee. So I just wanted to add that.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I was just going to ask, are we going to then switch our December meeting to a different date?
That is our December meeting.
No, we have two. We have December 21st and December 7th. So
Right.
basically, we were going to go 5 weeks and then have them 2 weeks apart.
So it
So
makes
is your question?
So I'm like, should we be moving our December meeting to
21st
to back that up?
The 14th.
Right. And I don't know if this conflicts with anything else. I have no idea. I'm just asking.
Can't believe you guys forgot about Hanukkah. So did I, of course, because it was Don that actually pointed it out to me. So,
You were here.
no, I thought it was on before.
21st though?
We have one on the 20th.
We do have one scheduled on the 21st, but then it would be 4 weeks in between our, do you know what I mean? Like we're chunking them together.
So it'll be the 14th, I believe.
But is there something happening the
14th would last
14th?
night of Hanukkah.
Like, is there something else happening
Yeah,
here I
that's-
don't know about? Like a concert of my kids that I didn't put in my
Let's
calendar
open the
yet.
district calendar.
Yeah, let's look at the district calendar. 'cause
We can
I do
also,
think that just
we
came
could,
out.
if we didn't want to do that, make that decision right now, we could also.
We
sort of
can.
put a-
I'm just
put a
throwing it out there because
Placeholder
we're
on
all
the
talking
14th.
about it right
No,
now.
I appreciate that. I'm just saying, like, and take a moment to really think about the 14th versus the 21st and whether we want to move that. Or we can do it right now, you know.
I'm pulling it up right now. December 14th. There's nothing.
Oh, wait.
Totally
It's like
blank.
3 days
Well,
ahead, so.
On District 1.
Yes.
Is that the district one? But
Yeah,
is
that's
that the
the
same
district.
as like the high school and the middle
Yeah, I
school? Like,
can't
are they all
Oh,
the
I'm not
same?
checking all those calendars.
All right, well, let's just like consider it, because then we have 3 weeks, you know what I mean, we have 2 weeks in
Conferences are
between.
On the 14th,
What's that?
evening conference.
Oh, evening conferences, okay,
Constantine or Miller.
okay.
Is that over by what time though?
Yeah, what time are those over though?
Probably 7, I would think.
eight.
Oh, no, I don't
I
know.
don't know what time.
I don't know, I think they're like 6 to 8.
Okay, let's do this next meeting.
Can we
Okay.
table the December
Yeah,
discussion, but
yeah.
still move motions?
We have a
to
second in
the
motion,
agenda?
yeah.
Okay.
So Sarah, you're voting yes or no?
December 7th to 30th?
December 7th to 30th.
Yes.
Okay. Amanda,
Yes.
Cynthia,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
Minnie.
I guess it's a yes.
Okay, thank you. Dan, yes, that motion carries. So we've reached the end of our agenda, so our next meeting will now be November 30th. And so I will now entertain a motion to adjourn from open session into executive session, for which we will not return to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. And this is for the reason for strategy related to collective bargaining with the
Moved by Cynthia.
HFT. And I'm
Seconded
declaring
by Lisa.
that is a roll call vote. Sarah?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Minnie?
Yes.
Dan, yes, that carries. Good night, and have a great rest of your week and weekend.